All right there guys, and welcome back to 2021, a year in review. If you missed yesterday's video, I covered the first 6 months of the year from January to June. And in part 2 of today, we're going to be covering the other 6 months of July to December. I explained everything in the first video, so go check that out if you want to understand anything else about this format. Right, let's get just straight back into it. So, in July, the third lockdown finally came to an end. After we'd spent the longest time in any lockdown we'd ever been in, from January to what was meant to be the 21st of June, but that never happened, the government extended the lockdown a further month and finally ended it on July 19th. So all restrictions had been lifted. Also in July we had the Euros. Obviously it began in June, but it didn't finish till July, so this still counts. So in the Euros, England got so close to winning an international trophy, but it wasn't to be. We started off with a 1-0 win against Croatia, which was a huge win because it was a revenge mission for what happened in the 2018 World Cup, when Croatia knocked England out of the World Cup. Then it came Scotland, where it was a 0-0 boring draw. Don't know why, can't believe we all sat through that. Then, of course, we rounded off the group stage with a 1-0 win against Czech Republic, with Raheem Sterling scoring, just like he did against Croatia. Round of 16, and we came up against Germany. Germany have been big rivals for England in the international tournaments, the Euros and the World Cup. Of course, there was the 2010 World Cup where Lampard's goal that wasn't to be, even that clearly went over the line but wasn't given. There was the 3-2 win England had against Germany just before Euro 2016. There was, of course, Euro 96 where Germany beat England on penalties in the semis. But this time around in the Euro 2020, England were victorious, winning 2-0 against Germany, with goals from Raheem Sterling again and Harry Kane, to send the Germans out at the first knockout round. Then we came up against Ukraine in the quarter-finals, who beat Sweden in the last minute of their round of 16 tie. It was a comfortable 4-0 win here in the quarter-finals. 2 goals from Harry Kane, 1 goal from Harry Maguire, and even Jordan Henderson got in on the act. Then came the semi-finals, where we faced off against Denmark, who became everyone's second favourite nation for the Euros, after the horrific event of Christian Eriksen suffering cardiac arrest in Denmark's first group game against Finland, where he just collapsed on the pitch and had to be taken to hospital. So, because of that, Denmark became everyone's second favourite nation after their own. So when Denmark just scraped through their group, losing their first 2 games but winning their very last one to just scrape through to the round of 16. There, they battered Wales 4-0, so that's another home nation of ours gone. Scotland went in the groups, Wales went in the first knockout, England were all that was left. In the quarters, they beat Czech Republic 2-1 to make it to the semis to face off against England. And it started off pretty well. They went 1-0 up through a fantastic free kick, but an own goal from a Harry Kane cross made it 1-1, and then a extra time penalty from Harry Kane was missed, but he stuck in the rebound to make it 2-1, and England, for the first time since 1966, were in the final of an international tournament. And we faced off against Italy. And the game could not have started any better off than it did. Just 2 minutes into the game, Kieran Trippier whips in the cross and Luke Shaw sticks it between Donnarumma and the post. 2 minutes in, Italy 0, England 1. We are winning in an international tournament final for the first time in over 50 years. England fans do not get to see this, ever. But Gareth Southgate decided to park the bus for the next 118 minutes as Italy equalised on the hour mark through Leonardo Bonucci scoring a scrappy goal from a corner. Gareth still didn't bother to attack, so it went to extra time. We almost lost the game in extra time, but we didn't, and it went to penalties. God, a penalty shootout in the final of a tournament. The worst way to lose it, but probably the best way to win it. And this is where you have to question Gareth Southgate's decision making, because the penalty order went Harry Kane, Harry Maguire, Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho and Bukayo Saka. Kane and Maguire both scored their penalties, but Rashford, Sancho and Saka all missed. And Italy scored most of their penalties, so we ended up losing it on penalties in the final. This led to a huge amount of racist abuse towards Rashford, Sancho and Saka, which was of course very much undeserved and very unjustified. But if you looked at who the racist abuse came from, the majority of it actually came from people in countries in the Middle East, and not from here in the UK. But that didn't stop the leftist media calling this country a racist, bigoted place, which they've been doing anyway. Of course, all the leftists that pretended to care about this country throughout the Euros went straight back to hating it like they do normally. Was the racism justified? Obviously not. But trying to paint the UK as racist when it wasn't even people in the UK giving out most of the abuse is just a sign of how the left needs to politicize everything. And the country's fans were divided anyway because LGBT propaganda and taking the knee in BLM on everyone. The players insist taking the knee has nothing to do with BLM, but I tend to disagree, because BLM is the reason they started taking the knee in June 2020. They wore the words Black Lives Matter on their shirts that first game back after the first lockdown. They wore Black Lives Matter on their shirt sleeve here for the rest of that season. And everyone who takes the knee endorses BLM. So, kind of hard not to see the link between taking the knee and BLM when that's the whole reason taking the knee even began. The players insist they're not connected, but they are though. Everyone can see it. BLM is literally why they started doing it. And that's the thing, if you support BLM, then you support racism. Simple as that, because BLM are a far-left, extremist, racist hate group. That is what BLM are. Obviously, they won't have told you that, they'll have told you something else, but that's what they really are. It's very simple to see. BLM are not a good organisation, and they do not have good people in their movement. I mean, the BLM riots of 2020 should have told you that one anyway. And this brought into the question, did Gareth Southgate pick Sancho, Saka and Rashford to take penalties because they're not white? I don't know. I think that is reaching and clutching at straws a little bit. Because Rashford had been Manchester United's penalty taker for the majority of the time until Bruno Fernandes came in. But Rashford had been injured for the last 3 to 4 months and should have been in a treatment room. He shouldn't have even been there. Sancho didn't take Dortmund's penalty, so he wouldn't be ready, and he hadn't played a single second of this match. Neither had Rashford. And Saka had never taken a penalty in his entire career, and you're putting the most important penalty, probably of his entire career, as his first one. Why didn't Gareth pick people he knew that were already on the pitch, rather than bringing Rashford and Sancho on specifically to take penalties, and then they both missed? But Italy were victorious, and Jorginho Chiellini shithoused an entire country, especially when he pulled Saka back. Remember that challenge that probably should have got him sent off, and how the entire country was just hurling abuse at him. Yeah, Jorginho Chiellini really shithoused an entire nation. And the thing is, who won the Euros trophy? England or him? He did. So in the end, he was the winner, not us. And that's all we've got for July. So, August, the 2020 Tokyo Olympics finally took place, 1 year later than scheduled. And again, just like in the Euros, more woke political diversity and inclusion was pushed. There were American athletes protesting the American flag if they got in the top 3, which makes me think, why are you are supposed to be representing America, and yet all you're doing is representing the anti-American hate values that the left have towards the country. Personally, in my opinion, I feel like if you hate the country that you're supposed to be representing, you should not be allowed to represent them in the Olympics, because that's ridiculous. The media, of course, always made sure to focus on the people protesting against the American flag, but any of them that said they love to represent their country, who were American, and they're very proud to represent their country, oh no, those people weren't ever talked about in the media, because that makes America look like a good place, and the left don't want people to see it as what it is. They want to see it as this so-called bigoted, racist country that still lives in the 1800s, which it doesn't. The top 4 in the Olympics were China winning out, because they seem to win the Olympics every time it happens, don't they? Then we had Japan in 2nd, the hosts, America came in 3rd, and Team GB, which is ours, Great Britain, came 4th, so not quite a top 3 spot for us. Close, but not quite. And of course, next year, it's not too long until the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics in China, which I don't even know if that'll go ahead or not. But if it does, Beijing will become the first city in history to host the Summer and Winter Olympics. Because if you remember, they hosted the Summer Olympics back in 2008, and now they're going to be hosting the Winter Olympics. Not sure how the same city can host both sets of Olympics, but hey, China's a pretty big place. So they're going to manage it somehow. Next up we have everyone's least favourite month of the year, September, because summer has just ended. So in September, I returned to college to do another course to try and get more qualifications in the hopes of myself getting a job at some point. 3 days later, I realised all of the reasons why I chose not to go back there in 2019 when I could have done to just continue, all of those reasons were very much justified again 2 years later. I realised I can't do this. I'm struggling to do this. I will not pass this course. I knew that back in 2019, which is why I didn't bother trying it back then. And I would have even less chance of passing it now, because all the knowledge I had back then has very much disappeared and gone away. So I tried to switch courses, but due to certain circumstances, I couldn't. So that means I left college just 3 days after going back, because it just was not going to work out. I already knew. People tell me not to have a defeatist attitude. I don't call it that. I don't call it a defeatist attitude. I call it a realistic attitude. There's a difference between saying it's defeatist and it's being realistic. I see it as realistic. And then Ofcom cleared Piers Morgan of the comments he made about Meghan Markle back in March. Obviously, if you want to know what I said about the Meghan Markle interview with Oprah Winfrey, you'll have to watch yesterday's video, as that's where it was explained. So basically, Ofcom are like communications for like TV and broadcasting that's not part of social media. That's what Ofcom are about. That's what Ofcom do. They're a government institution. and they cleared Piers Morgan of any claims that could get him into trouble for what he said about Meghan Markle, where he basically went in on her the morning after her interview with Oprah Winfrey. And finally in September, quite a significant thing in America happened. Donald Trump overtook Joe Biden in the approval polls in America. Think about it. September is the 9th month of the year. Joe Biden only became president in January. That's only 8 months ago. So in 8 months of Joe Biden being president, Donald Trump has already overtaken him on the approval ratings. Safe to say, a lot of people who voted for Biden massively regretted their decision, but not only that, they also understood that they realised they never actually voted for Biden. They were voting against Trump because the media's 4-year constant dehumanization and demonization and slander and so many false allegations about Trump, some of which I talked about in yesterday's video. And yet, Trump is more popular now than he was when he was actually the president. I find that quite funny. Like, Joe Biden has I don't know about the poll ratings at the minute, but Joe Biden's approval rating might have dipped lower than Trump's. I'm not entirely sure on that one. The lowest approval rating percentage Trump ever had as president was in his first year as president in 2017, and it was I think it was 38 or 37% approval rating. That was, of course, when he'd just become president and the media were trying to vilify him for absolutely everything, whereas this year, the media have tried to praise and push up Joe Biden as much as possible, even with his dreadful leadership. So, if Trump and Biden go head-to-head in the 2024 election, it's those two again, there is no way Biden is winning a second time. Trump would reclaim the presidency from him. There's no way Biden would win a second time because the media because so many people who voted for him have had enough of him already, and he hasn't even been in office for a year yet. How mad is that? It's not even been one full year since Joe Biden took office, and so many Americans who voted for him are already had enough of him and want him gone. October. Okay, in October, the hashtag that I talked about in yesterday's video, Not All Men, began trending again, as people were yet again trying to vilify all men due to the action of one person. I said it yesterday and I'll say it again. If you know for a fact as a man you are not a danger to women, don't listen to what any of these people have to say, because they're trying to vilify you for something you have not done and will never do. So there's no point in listening to these idiots. Again, it's just the feminist movement looking for a reason to push their anti-men, sexist hate agenda. And then the LGB Alliance gained quite a bit of traction, as they happened to be at the Conservative conference that was done just a few months ago. What the LGB Alliance is, it's basically a group that is specifically about LG and B rights. So it doesn't include trans people. And it's been vilified by the left, the media, and anyone else as a anti-trans hate group because it doesn't include trans people. Now, I see the LGBT Alliance as people who have been shunned by LGBT charities and organisations because they don't follow the trans narrative anymore. They don't follow the trans narrative. They're not about that. Transgender is a identity, gender identity. Gay, lesbian, and bisexual are all sexualities. Like, they're not the same thing. The L's, B's, and G's are all sexualities. The T's are gender identities. These things are not These are not the same thing. So I can see why the LGBT Alliance exists, because they want to have their own voice, and they feel like if they stay within modern day woke LGBT circles, their voices will never get heard because they want to protect LGBT rights, and if that means maybe not being as in favour of the T rights as other people, they get shunned and basically are told their opinions are not valid, and they get vilified basically as if they're straight. This is why I was talking about the super gay, super lesbian, and super bisexual hashtags in yesterday's video. Because gay men, gay women, and then bisexual men and women have been shunned and vilified and basically treated as transphobic bigots because they have a different opinion to what the trans narrative wants them to think. Also, in a Pride march earlier this year, a guy was kicked out of it just for wearing the LGBT Alliance t-shirt, which shows the modern day woke LGBT community hate the LGBT Alliance because it's full of people who are not the same as them, who think differently and have different opinions. And the LGBT Alliance is actually quite a bit more accepting than the woke LGBT community nowadays. It's just an organisation, a movement for people who support LGBT rights the most over trans rights, even though trans people are not oppressed in the countries the LGBT Alliance is around, the US and the UK. Trans people are not oppressed in those countries. But they seem to control trans activists control the LGBT community nowadays. That's massively why the LGBT Alliance exists. It's to disconnect from the modern day woke LGBT community, because the LGs and Bs who were here, even though they were around first, feel like they've been pushed to the side and they're not woke enough to be part of the modern day LGBT community, so they've just been shunned and ostracized from their own community. So they created their own community, and now they're being vilified for it. Which shows you once more that the modern day woke LGBT community is the least accepting and tolerant to people who are different the community has ever been. And that's not even it. And that's not even it for October. Next up in October, we have Dr. Fauci again. Yes, Dr. Fauci makes one more return. Basically, the US Health Department basically confirmed Dr. Fauci over the course of last year and even this year lied about COVID. Not only did he lie about where COVID could have been created from, but he also lied. It was exposed that he lied about using American taxpayer money to fund these Wuhan labs in China where the virus potentially originated from. Basically confirming that Dr. Fauci could actually be partly responsible for the creation of COVID, and yet people are supposed to listen to him like he knows what he's talking about and he knows all the science. Dr. Fauci is about as qualified to tackle COVID as Boris Johnson. Not very. Now we move on to November. So, in November, the second channel, not this channel, but my second channel where I post all my Let's Play and gaming videos on, and of course the Real Talk videos on, we had an incredible month in November because the subscriber and view growth throughout October and November, especially November, was just fantastic. We went from 22 to 26 subscribers in mere days, and we had an incredible month in terms of views. And this all stemmed from when I started my Crash Bandicoot 4 Let's Play at the start of October. which of course has come to a close for now at the very start of this month. Will it return? Well, you guys seem to want me to cover inverted mode, but I want to let's play a few more games. We've of course been let's playing SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom on the second channel at the moment, and there's one other game I want to let's play before covering inverted mode. And it just so happens it's going to be very easy for me to access that game as well. I won't of course tell you what it is, and because we haven't finished the SpongeBob Let's Play yet, so why would I tell you now what the next one after that is when we haven't finished the current one? And that concludes November, so for December, believe it or not, I don't have anything written down for December. Actually, no, wait. There is one thing for December that we can talk about. The return of restrictions. The Omicron variant of COVID that came from Africa. That's, of course, been big in the news over the course of this month. And, of course, COVID restrictions, such as bringing back masks, has made its return. Does anyone ever want to go back to normal life? I'd quite like to do that, but it seems that governments around the world don't want normal life to return, for whatever reason. So then it just isn't going to happen anytime soon. Of course, the third COVID jab, the booster, has started up. I haven't had mine yet. I'll probably be having it sometime, I don't know, maybe like February of next year. But yeah, I'll be getting my third booster whenever. And then there'll be a fourth one and a fifth one, and it'll never end, let's be honest. But that is all I have, which means that is the end of 2021, a year in review. We've come to the end of a year once again. I want to thank all of you for watching across this entire year, especially for this video, yesterday's video, and the other 50 plus videos I have posted across this year, as 2021 has been my favourite year in terms of content creation. I've thoroughly enjoyed the content I've made this year, because I finally have a style of content I really enjoy making. Because last year, my anime videos were basically like vlogs I just talk about, but instead of me talking about something that's going on, I just talk about the show I'm covering and then make the thumbnail relevant to whatever the show I'm talking about is. Whereas this year, I've added the thumbnail is also the image I put on screen for you to look at throughout the video. And the in a nutshell format of content is the style I feel fits me the best. It's the style I enjoy the most making, and it will be the style I will continue to be making going forward in 2022. Of course, I talked about having a thing called anime burnout in last year's year in review video. That has not happened this year, as throughout the year I've taken breaks from watching anime, as I've been watching quite a lot of The Simpsons this year. I've watched seasons 11 through 25. Yeah, I've watched a couple hundred of Simpsons episodes this year. And I said at the start of this year I wanted to try and see if I could finish all the current seasons of The Simpsons. I'm not even close. I've still got seasons 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, and of course, season 33, which is currently ongoing right now. But yeah, I'm very happy with the type of content I'm making right now. I'm very much enjoying the style and format of content of In a Nutshell. I feel those are the videos that fit me the best to make. And that is all we have for 2021. The year is officially over. So, thank you everyone who has watched across the whole year. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed over the course of this year. If you guys have enjoyed this video and any of the others, please be sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, as there's plenty more content coming in 2022. And until next year, catch you later.